So this is a review for the Ducksters, and joining me for this wonderful radio show that I have on YouTube are my good friends Manny Cruz and S.C. MacPeter. Say hi!
This commentary is sponsored by Eagle Hand Laundry.
Does your eagle have dirty laundry?
Let's see.
This is for the Ducksters, released on the 2nd of September 1950 with a blue ribbon reissue sometime in 1959. It's the 598th of the series and it's directed by Chuck Jones. You can find this on the Looney Tunes Golden Collection Volume 1 DVD set. However, it was restored once again and it's on HBO Max, which who knows how long that thing's going to last, but we won't get into that news, surely. So, the synopsis, in case you haven't seen it, because it is under copyright after all, it's a simple one. Porky Pig is a contestant on the radio show
Truth or
The show is being hosted by Daffy Duck, and the show itself involves Porky having to either answer near impossible questions or pay the penalty. In terms of trivia for this one, now this is really interesting because I didn't think there was going to be too much into it, but apparently there is. So, first of all, the title itself is a play on the movie title The Hucksters that was released in 1947, and once again, it's got nothing to do with that movie. It's just a play on that title and nothing more. Now, the radio show here that you see is a parody of an actual radio show that would later become a TV show called Truth or Consequences, where a joke question would be asked of a contestant, which was never really meant to be answered, and so the contestant would be put through some sort of a crazy stunt. The creator and initial host, Ralph Edwards, would say, "Aren't we devils?" which was actually once said by Bugs Bunny in an earlier short, but here it's said by Daffy as,
aren't we gruesome?
Now there is a line,
Have you got a doctor in the balcony, lady?
that was a reference to the radio quiz show Dr. IQ, where the announcer would say, "I have a lady in the balcony, doctor." Eagle Hand Laundry, as my good friends just now have referenced in the opening, it comes from the fact that there were still lots of hand laundries around. See, these days we'd have all these laundromats, but back then there were still hand laundries where mass quantities of laundries were done by hand, hence the name. Daffy briefly mentions the Super Chief. That's just a train that was around since the 30s, which was an amazing train from what I understand. Wow. What a short, fellas. I mean, this is one of the brutal short, especially how it opens where you got the saw blade. I mean, what was up with that? I mean, if Porky didn't answer, would we have some pork chops in this?
Pork chops.
Yeah, I was waiting for that. I was waiting for that. I mean, what did you guys think of the opening? Just it gets right into the action, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, this one is fantastic with the gags. Chuck is usually great at character and character humor. This one is just humor and it's fantastic. Easily one of the best examples of just humor in one of Chuck Jones's cartoons. Because Porky is just this incredibly naive guy who goes on this popular game show and gets everything you don't want to happen. He should know better, but he doesn't.
I mean, wouldn't you know that it's a pretty full-on show? But anyway, like, it's still pretty funny as a result. I mean, what did you think of that opening, Manny?
I'm just in the mood for bacon right about now. I don't know about you. It's something that I don't know if you guys found this in the research. Truth or Consequences, the show itself. I remember reading that there was a city in New Mexico called Truth or Consequences, and I'm like, isn't that the show that the Ducksters reference? And like, I was completely confused. It's a real town in New Mexico. It was originally called Hot Springs, and they voluntarily changed their name after the radio show in March of 1950. And I'm like, that's so strange. But then again, it shows the appeal of the show at the time. But then again, you know, some kid that's living in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, wouldn't even realize that their town was named after, you know, a radio show from the 50s.
Yeah, it's really funny, too. You said March of 1950. This short came out only a few months later.
And it had been on the radio for nearly a decade by that point as well, so it was definitely pretty popular, and I think it ran as a TV show all the way up until the 80s. I wonder if anyone's going to, revive it now. But then again, you get all these reality shows now. I guess it kind of picks up on what was done on that show. And
maybe do like the Ducksters and make it more reality when it's on the saw.
Yeah, put someone annoying on the saw and, make them answer questions, I guess. That would be pretty brutal. And I will make a note that this short still works, and it works really well, even if you don't know that radio or TV show reference, because what you get now, if I showed it to my kids, who I haven't shown it to them yet, they might be too terrified of that saw gag in the beginning, but when they watch it, they'll just look at it, oh, Daffy just is hosting this crazy TV show and Porky's silly enough to go with it. And so it works in both ways. It works as a reference and it works on its own. And that's what a good parody should be able to do.
Greatest of the parodies and satires they did in the cartoons, they work so well because you don't need to understand the reference. They're just funny on their own. It's just funny when you hear a name like Vendo Vilci being shouted. And it's really funny when you just hear that loud, obnoxious girl in Little Red Riding Rabbit. You don't know who it's referencing, but she's funny because they make a bigger joke out of it.
It's a funny joke. And boy, oh boy, like a lot of these gags, I mean, this is, I believe, the last Zania Daffy that Chuck did. You know, he still has the whole greed element in there because, of course, he's a radio show host that doesn't really want to pay out until he has to at the very end. But after this, yeah, Chuck will mainly have Daffy as greedy a duck or as like a stupid hero of some sort, like a Duck Dodgers and all that stuff. So basically from here on, the last wacky Daffy will be in a few more McKimson cartoons, and that's pretty much it. And we get the greedy duck after that. I love the animation in this one, and one that stood out to me the most was the tooth picking, when Daffy all of a sudden has all these teeth. You know, go figure. And he's just picking away at it, which I think was done similarly, if I could talk correctly today, in a Charlie Dog short. I mean, what do you guys think of that bit of animation? Or are there any other bits of animation that stood out to you guys?
It's that too, and also when Porky gets hit on the safe, it's really bouncy. There's a lot of great animation in this one. I think Lloyd Wogcram did a lot of the animation in this one. And he's just put on full display of just doing great action. He does a lot of great bouncy action.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, the scene where Porky was frazzled and he was about to attack Daffy. Just some of the facial gestures from both characters. The animation of Daffy screaming in the beginning kills me every time I see it. And just a little nuances, and I wish I knew exactly who was drawing it, but when Porky's on the phone talking to the owner of the broadcasting company, just like, you know, his face when he's like listening, he's like, how much do you want? Now, of course, this is Chuck Jones we're talking about, and he was a master of facial nuance in animation, but it's a real treasure to just watch. I mean, the cartoon's hilarious, but just also there's so much variety in the animation to really gleam about.
Yeah, the nuances in Porky's face when he's, you know, when his eyes look up, like he's thinking, like the thinking listening that a lot of us will do and maybe not care to admit, but it's fantastic. Yeah, you're right. It's absolutely fantastic. I got to ask you, Manny, being, you know, Mr. Music, the Toonie Tenor and all that jazz, the music joke.
Listen carefully. And there you have it now. What's the opera? Cavalleria Rusticana?
Now, of course, it's funny because, you know, he plays one note and it's like, okay, what's this song? But what's the reference there in terms of what Porky's saying and what the audience shout out?
Okay, before I do that, I just want to go on a quick tirade for the restoration that I saw, and I can't stand it when they lower the pitch of these cartoons for some of the restorations on HBO Max and Blu-ray and all that, because it kind of ruined that scene for me, but it's just I remember it.
It ruins the very light timing.
And also the voices sound a little strange because, you know, obviously it's a lower pitch and Daffy sounds a little off to me in some lines. But anyway, going back to the scene itself. So when Daffy says, all right, you got to name this opera just from one note. The note that he plays is a B natural. B natural is like in tons of you hear multiple B naturals in one song at a given moment. So it's impossible to identify a song just with that note by itself. In the version I saw, it's slightly lower, so it sounds like a B flat, but that's just me being picky musician. But Porky guesses a Cavalleria Rusticana, or let's see if my Italian's a little great. He thinks that the note is from Cavalleria Rusticana. There's two L's, so you have to double them in Italian. So Cavalleria Rusticana. And that is an 1890 opera by Pietro Mascagni. And Cavalleria Rusticana translates to rustic, or is it rustic or rustic? Chivalry. Now that opera, it's a one-act opera, and since 1893, it's almost always performed as a double bill with another opera called Pagliacci from Ruggero Leoncavallo, and you're probably saying Pagliacci. It's the one, think of the clowns crying, Ridi Pagliaccia, that one, you know. Pagliacci means clowns in Italian. But yeah, Cavalleria Rusticana is almost always combined with Pagliacci in the performance. And usually what they do is the same cast will do both performances of two different operas. Two different composers, but they're both examples of Verismo opera. Verismo is opera that's more dramatic, more realistic. But the audience, and it makes sense because opera was still very popular in the 50s. And I know, rest in peace, my grandmother had a decent amount of opera recordings. She was alive in the 50s. And the audience guesses that it's Rigoletto. Rigoletto is one of the most famous operas out there, written by probably the most famous opera composer in history, Giuseppe Verdi. It premiered in 1851. And Rigoletto is the name of the main character. Rigoletto is a court jester, and probably the most famous aria in opera. We call the songs the soloists sing arias. The most famous one is La Donna è mobile, so means women is fickle. Ba 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 da 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 da. I remember seeing this cartoon as a kid, but it wasn't until I was older and after I went to college and everything when I saw this cartoon and that scene. And I laughed. I was like, "Oh, I get the opera joke now." But also, it makes me laugh because it actually became a meme online where someone used this clip of this scene where Daffy's like, "All right, guess the song," and he plays that one note. And then it was a meme like when you're taking your music history exam and your professor plays an excerpt from a song, and there's barely anything that you could get it to identify from.
That would have been fun, I would imagine. Did that happen to you?
Oh, of course, yeah. They're like, "All right, go listen to a 20-minute movement from a symphony," and then they'll play like 15 seconds of it, and it's not even like the part that's like super recognizable. Like, it's like, for example, like, all right, we're gonna listen to, like, for example, Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. The beginning is so iconic, da 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 da, and then they'll play like 10 seconds of the third movement, and you're like, wait, what song is this? And you have to write all it out, and you just see.
They'll just leave the unfinished symphony unfinished.
Pretty much, yeah. Or I like the clip. Was it Jordan Peele where all the sweat is running down his face with all the music majors trying to figure out what the song is.
Oh, indeed. Now, Essie, this cartoon actually means a lot to you.
This is one of the first I ever watched because my local library had the first Golden Collection, and this one is one of the first on the Daffy and Porky sets, so I watched this one a lot. I don't own any of the Golden Collections, but I did watch them for just watching it.
Well, if you do need a Golden Collection set, just click the link in the description below, and that helps out the channel, you can always
Like, good job.
Yuck.
A few more musical things I wanted to mention. Again, you rewatch this cartoon after a while, and in my case, there's little musical things that I never picked up on before. And usually I try not to, because I have access to the cue sheets for these cartoons, but I try to look at the cue sheets after I watch a cartoon because I want to play like guess that melody. So first off, the cartoon starts off with a song called "I'm in Love" by Sammy Cahn and Jules Stein. You could say it's kind of like the theme song of the show itself. Doris Day performed that song. I chuckled when Porky was trying to guess a question, who is the father of America, and he's trying to say George Washington. And you hear "My Country 'Tis of Thee," or for my buddies who are in England, "God Save the Queen," same melody, different lyrics. Freddie the Freshman, of course, when he's like Daffy's propping up Porky. "Come on, sport, you could do it." Freddie the Freshman. When Daffy was asking about Cleopatra, I got a chuckle out of hearing "The Girlfriend of the Whirling Dervish" playing in the background. There's actually some other non-musical stuff I gotta bring up because I wrote a ton because I also love this cartoon. 48 states. This was produced 10 years before Alaska and Hawaii entered the Union. So yeah, that doesn't date this cartoon at all.
Nah.
The reference to Jungle Jitters I thought was neat. I don't know if they intentionally did that thinking, oh, there's a cartoon in the studio. I don't know if they're like,
there are a few Jungle Jitters. I think there's a Willy Whopper called it as well.
Oh, We're in the Money. That's another musical one. I just remembered now. My bad. So I did the inflation check. So when Porky buys the Ajax Broadcasting Company for $26 million and 3 cents in 2022, that is $323,662,857.52. And when Daffy goes, "Oh, hello, boss," I'm like, "Oh, I wonder if that's how the people at Warner Media feel right now after Discovery Plus bought them out."
He could buy Warner's Discovery with that money now.
Pretty much. Is that too soon for that joke?
Please do.
Sure. It's just a fantastic cartoon. One of the highlights of 1950 for sure, and there's a lot of highlights in this year. It's fantastic.
Yep, it is a great cartoon. I'm giving this 8.5 out of 10. I love it. I think it's really, really funny. It's not my favorite. I guess it's not my go-to, and I guess part of that might be just to do with nostalgia. I just never really watched this one, but when I watched it again for this review, boy oh boy, I was cracking up a lot, especially the music gag. I really enjoyed that with the one note thing. But no, 8.5 out of 10 for me.
I love this cartoon. Always gotten a kick out of it. I appreciate it even more with all the musical stuff. And this is like one of my go-to examples of why Porky and Daffy are my favorite Looney Tune duo. 9 out of 10.
I'm going 9 out of 10 too. I don't believe in a perfect film, but damn, this one is fantastic.
It definitely is. So many great gags, and as I said before, it works whether you get the parody or not. We'll wrap it up here, so thanks so much for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.
That's all, folks.
Is there a doctor in the balcony, lady?
Have you got a doctor in the balcony, lady?